Hey, we are back for part B. So in part B, right, continuous from part A, just a quick recap. We talk about the hip extensors and the flexors. We talk about the gait analysis, about stance phase and swing phase. We talk about elbow pump, talk about the elbow drive, knee drive. We talk about the upper body angle, things like that. Head posture. So in part B, we will extend a little bit on two other different muscle group. First of all, we will be talking about the hip stabilizer because back to the same runner again, because he's not wearing shirt, right? Also we can identify some key body landmark using his short. So let's quickly talk about the hip stabilizer. The muscles that actually stabilize the hip is actually the glute medius. We talk about glute maximus, which is the hip extensor. Then glute medius is the one that's responsible for hip stabilizing. Then later on in the second half, we talk about the ankle posture. Ankle, we talk about the dorsiflexion and plantar flexions. So now let's dive into hip stabilizer. So when is the hip medius activated most? Is actually at the mid stance. So still remember when is mid stance? Mid stance is where the both knees match each other at this point. And still remember the body is actually the lowest of the height where you're actually absorbing the most amount of impact, and the ankle is actually in the most pronated position. Okay, so let me find a good frame that we can expose the amount of hip drops in a more of a 3D view. This is where we can see. So roughly you can see that both the knee are meeting each other at this point of time. This is the mid stance, and we can see that draw a line across. You can see the hip. Okay, there's a certain level amount of hip drop at mid stance because one foot is actually touching the ground while the other foot is in the air. So it is normal, let me emphasize this again, it is normal to have some level of hip drop, some degree of hip drop, but we do not want too much or too excessive hip drop. So again, in this phase, which foot or which leg is touching the ground? So right now we are looking at the left foot, right? So as I mentioned from the start, we try to use the right foot for understanding purposes. So let me rewind back. Of course, whatever happened on the right will also mirror onto the left. But the reason why I use the right because it's easier to visualize and easier to see in this angle. So now the right foot, yep, both knee meeting each other. This is the mid stance, and you can see the hip. Let me go up further up higher. Right foot into mid stance. So you can see the hip is not too bad, pretty much as close to perpendicular to the ground. It's not too bad. Rewind back a bit. So this is the left. Perhaps maybe the left side. Okay, this is the left foot. So when the left foot is touching the ground, we are now specifically looking at the left glute medius, because left leg is the one that's standing onto the ground. Yeah. So the left glute medius has to support this side. Otherwise, if the left glute medius is not working right, we might end up seeing significant of hip drop because the left glute medius is not strong enough to support the weight on the right side.
Medically, this syndrome is known as the trendelenburg gait.
So this is the right foot. Yeah. So again, what we're seeing here is actually from one perspective, one angle. It might not be a true representative. That's why in gait analysis, usually what we want to do is try to capture from as many angles as possible. And again, as the runner gets fatigued, things, the biomechanics, the alignment may change over time. Alright, so now we are looking at the right side where the both knees meeting each other. This is a mid-stance, and we are looking at the right glute medius. So what's so good for this runner? So at the left side, visually, alright, it's still quite okay for me. So this is just to have a clear understanding of the function of glute medius.
Okay, the next section we are looking at will be the ankle joint. The ankle joint basically move in a three-dimensional movement, in a supinated position or a pronated position. However, in this explanation, we will try to keep it simple for layman understanding. So when the ankle move up, we call that the dorsiflexion, and when the ankle move down, we call that the plantar flexion.
So when the ankle pointing up in 2D is called dorsiflexion, the ankle pointing down is called plantar flexion. So using the right foot as a reference, right? So this is more like a neutral, more for a neutral angle. So as during the toe off phase, you can see that this is something called the plantar flexions, where the toes is actually pointing away from the body, yeah, pointing downwards. So just now you can see roughly about close to 90. Now it's extended to 136, 140 degree, yeah. So the ankle actually have to go into the plantar flexions in order to work together. Remember, we talk about the glute maximus and we talk about the hamstring. These are the extensors. So together with the plantar flexion from the ankle joint, right, it allows the body to have a maximum efficacy to move forward in the horizontal plane. So this is called plantar flexions, where the ankle pointing down. So the right foot will go back to a neutral.
Neutral is defined as somewhere close to 90 degree.
Plantar flexions on the right side. And it will go back to dorsiflexions. Plantar flexions, you will go back to dorsiflexions. Alright, so for the part B, it's quite straightforward. We talk about the glute medius as a form of heat stabilizer, and we talk about the ankle joint, plantar flexions and dorsiflexions. Alright, that's all for part B. Sweet and short. Thank you.